What's up, Dirt Trax Nation? Luke here, bringing you guys another walk around video. This time it's pretty exciting. This is on Kawasaki's newest model, the TERYX KRX4 ES1000. It's kind of a convoluted name, but this is a pretty severe vehicle. I mean, just looking at it, it looks serious. It looks tough. It looks like it's ready to just knock you over and drive over top of you. But underneath it all, this thing is actually really, really impressive. Aside from its good looks, it's not just skin deep. It has so much cool technology and build design that's really impressive. So I just want to give you guys our walk around. I actually haven't driven this thing other than from where our shop is out here to our property, our testing grounds out here. So that's my only experience with it. We will be bringing you a full test ride on it, of course, but this is just my initial impressions. Let's start with looks. Interestingly, everyone who's seen this thing says the same thing, that the front of it is very Razor-esque, and I agree with them. It actually is very Razor-esque. It has a really stubby nose, which is kind of cool. It gives you the feeling like you're really far forward in the vehicle, and that aggressive sort of forward riding stance, and I think it just looks really, really good. With that said, despite your body and the driver and passenger being further forward on the vehicle, it's still a mile long and has a 125-inch wheelbase. It is a very, very, very long side-by-side. But of course, you're getting a full sport side-by-side with full 4 seats and a cargo box, so it's gonna be long. Up front, you've got double A-arms, and they are damping 18.6 inches of front end travel. And if you haven't noticed, and if you haven't seen it anywhere else, right here, this is a really important sticker on here. It's on both sides, Fox Live Valve. So Kawasaki has their own automatically adjusting suspension system. It has 3 modes, soft, medium, firm. It uses Fox Live Valve shocks. It uses sensors all over the vehicle to determine whether you're on the gas, on the brakes, whether you're steering left or right, the speed of the shock, movement, and things like that. And they call this KECS, or Kawasaki Electronically Controlled Suspension. I wouldn't say that's the most creative acronym ever, but it's definitely describes exactly what it does. You're using Fox 2.5 internal bypass shocks, which are massive. These are massive shocks. It's a great system. It's something we've seen elsewhere. There's no question. There's no beating around the bush about that. It's definitely something we've seen elsewhere. This is Kawasaki's proprietary programming though. And that's the difference. Fox sells these shocks and the basics of the system to numerous people. Each individual company develops their own brain for the system and how it works. So Kawasaki has done that on their own. I can't speak to how great or not great it works because I haven't tested it yet, but just a little bit of testing I did coming in the road here on soft mode, it rode really good. So we'll see how that continues on. Now I want to continue on just down the side of the vehicle. Up front, before I do that, this is the special edition model. So it comes with a worn 4,500 pound winch pre-installed. It has metal cable, not synthetic cable, and it's pre-installed, so that's good. It's definitely a beefy winch, and it's going to give you all the pulling power you need to pull something like this around because it's a big vehicle. Okay, let's go around the vehicle. We'll talk about the wheel and tire package. These are really cool looking wheels, I think. The gold color matches with the paint scheme really well. And I think they're a really nice looking set of wheels. With that said, they are wrapped in 31-inch Maxxis carnivores, and I would have preferred to see these be beadlocks. I think that would have made a lot more sense, especially with a vehicle this big and heavy. I think beadlocks are becoming a necessity on vehicles like this these days. When you're pushing them hard into the corners and you're really stressing the sidewall and the bead of the tire, I think beadlocks are kind of becoming a necessity on high performance vehicles like this. With that said, these are really nice looking wheels, and you can't fault them for that. So they're 15s, which is cool too. Moving further down the side of the vehicle, I just want to point something out here. This has got little fenders on it. I'm assuming Kawasaki, haven't looked into this yet, but sells like an extended fender. But things on this vehicle, there's a lot of finishing touches that I think are really nice. In here, you've got like a metal deflector, I don't know what you call it. That's the driver compartment. The back of the driver compartment is all steel in here. All of this is finished in here. There's really nothing exposed that the wheel is going to throw crap up and hurt anything in here. It's all closed off, which I think is pretty neat. The other thing I want to talk about that I really liked about this is the doors. The doors on this thing are awesome. So they're not the most solid. They have a little bit of rattle to them, but look at how big they are. Look at how far down it goes. It goes right to the floor of the vehicle. So getting in and out of this thing is so easy. You got a little storage compartment right here. When the door is closed, you got a metal frame inside the door that gives it its strength. The interior of the door is finished, even though it does have exposed metal, it is still finished. But it's so easy to get in and out of. That's the easiest sport side-by-side to get in and out of for sure, which is cool. We won't talk about the interior yet. When we move to the back though, it still continues on the same. You got the same sort of finished interior door with an exposed metal frame, but right to the floor for getting in and out of. And like getting in and out of the back seat of this vehicle is probably one of the easiest back seats to get in and out of on a 4-seat sport side-by-side. There's nothing necessarily special about being back here. Metal grab bar with no rubber cover on it. I don't like that. I like to see a rubber cover, rubber handle on here, foam of some kind, just to make it more comfortable. There's not a lot of foot room. So there was that little cubby thing that I just showed you when I opened the driver door. It has a close off right here. It doesn't allow my toes to go forward. And that means that for a guy my size, with my foot size, I feel like my legs are kind of pushed back. I would like to be able to stretch out my legs a little bit more. So obviously that's a decision they've made to include that storage area and not allow my toes to go underneath the driver's seat to give me more space. That's a decision they've made. Now, is it a right or a wrong one? Generally speaking, your passengers in the backseat of a sports side-by-side are not going to be 6'1". I'm sure that there are people who will do that. I'm sure that there are, people who will take their friends with them, full-size adults. But for the most part, smaller people sit in the back. And this won't be an issue at all for a smaller person. So, there is lots of room back here, shoulder-wise. You got cup holders, things like that. It's a pretty decent back seat area. So that's a good thing. The roof on this model is included. That is part of the special edition package, is this roof. I always laugh at that, like, wow, the roof is included. This thing is an expensive side-by-side. Roofs should just be included on all sports side-by-sides. I don't know why they're not. But it is included here, and props to Kawasaki for doing that. Out back, you've got 4-link trailing arm setup. You've got boxed steel trailing arms here. They do look very beefy. Your sway bar is mounted up here with a little link, so it's kind of out of the way, which is nice. And I like this big deflector here that mounts up close and keeps crap from hitting the shock shaft. I think that's really smart, and it is very tough. It's not just a flappy little piece of rubber. It's a tough piece of plastic that I think will do a good job. Obviously, you've got threaded preload adjustment on the springs, and it does have dual rate springs. So that's how you adjust your preload. Again, you've got your Fox live valve, internal bypass, 2.0 shocks on the back. These things are massive. And out back, you have 21.1 inches of rear end travel that you're damping, which is pretty impressive. That's really good suspension numbers for a vehicle like this. Your intakes are up here for your CVT on one side and your engine on the other. And they're covered obviously with like brand name frog skins. One thing I'll say is I like how this cover piece that has the frog skins on it is bolted in. So it's not just a piece of plastic with the frog skins stuck to it. This is actually a removable piece here. So if you had to get in there and you wanted to wash the frog skins, for example, you could actually clean them from the back if you wanted to do that. I think that's a nice touch. Now, obviously they don't intend for you to take it off very often because there's like 7 screws holding it in. But if you did want to, you could, and I think that's good. Out back, you can obviously see that you get excellent access to your CVT right here. It is a CVT, obviously. The engine is a 999cc parallel twin. No official claims on horsepower. It's over 100. That's as close as we can get. It feels like it's got good power down low, though. It definitely pulls out of the corner, and for a vehicle this big and by default heavy, it actually gets up and goes pretty good. So I don't have any complaints about that. Top speed isn't as high as other really high performance 4-seaters. But top speed isn't always what the most important thing is. It is pretty important though. So you got your CVT cover here. Now, what's interesting about it is that it uses actual like bolts. So if you had an electric impact gun with an extension, you would have no trouble getting all of these bolts off really quickly to get at your CVT. So while I do think that there's probably a better way to do it in terms of quick releases or something like that, this is a very secure way to keep it sealed, but also using just normal tools that are easy to come by and have multi-purpose. I would keep an 18-volt impact gun with me if I ever needed it. I just keep it in my tool kit or whatever, and that way I could pull the CVT cover off no problem. As we move further around the back of the vehicle, I like design touches like the roll cage bars coming right down to the back and being mounted right to the frame back here. This is a very strong way to do a roll cage. I think it looks really good. It looks really tough. So that's cool. These links back here are massive, and they've got massive ball joints on the end of them. This is a really tough looking rear suspension. It looks like it's going to survive a ton of abuse. I see no reason why it wouldn't. You'll notice that there is no trailer hitch back here. That's pretty standard for a pure sport like this, but if it is something you're interested in, or if you do want to tow a trailer, or maybe you like being out in the desert and you want to tow a camper with you while you're out in the desert, some small camper, you can't do that. There may be an accessory. I'm sure the aftermarket will design an accessory thing for back here, but as it comes, it doesn't include one. Get your single exit exhaust on the side. And I will say something about the single exit exhaust. Like these days, stylized exhaust exits are something that everybody's going forward, like with a center exit or a dual exit or something that looks cool. Kawasaki has opted just for a stainless exhaust can on the back, one side. It's not very stylish. It honestly doesn't look very nice. It's, I'm sure, very functional, but they could definitely have improved that. What I want to talk about now, though, is this cargo box. Now, you'll notice something about the cargo box. Part of it is used up with this thing right here, this Kawasaki Hi-Phonic stereo system. That's because the special edition version of the 4-seater KRX includes a full stereo. It's got, this is a subwoofer enclosure right here. Then you've got a speaker in each door with a separate head unit in the dashboard that controls all your stereo equipment and how it works. It's loud, it's high quality parts. I haven't been able to test the sound really well to see and tune it to my liking, but if you're into having a stereo on your side-by-side, this one is integrated very nicely, I think. You do lose some of your cargo box, but I mean, you know, that's not the end of the world. The cargo box itself can hold 351 pounds. It has little D-ring attachments here in each corner for tying stuff down. It's got a very grippy bottom surface to it. There's enough space for a good sized cooler or a couple bags. There are lots of accessories from Kawasaki to store more cargo on this vehicle. And there's one interesting design feature here is that this little notch, and I'm not 100% sure what that's for, but I'm thinking it's probably for some sort of clip-in accessory. We're gonna bring you a lot more information about accessories on this unit. We've got a bunch of stuff planned for it, so we'll talk more about that later, but it is an interesting design feature that I'm sure has a multi-purpose, otherwise why do it? But definitely having the D-rings included is a nice touch, because you could tie down things here. So many of these sports side-by-sides have nowhere to hook a tie down. It's like, you give us a box, but we can't tie anything down in it. So this is definitely a nice inclusion. Moving around the side, everything over here is the same. There's nothing really to speak of that's different over here. This model has mirrors. As far as I know, those are not included from the factory. Those are an aftermarket, factory aftermarket accessory, let's call it. But let's talk about the interior, because there's a lot going on in here in the interior that I think we need to discuss, and a lot of good and some stuff I'm curious about. So maybe we'll have the camera go over this side and I'll just sit in the driver's seat. We can talk a bit about this, this interior. So you can see here in the door, this is your speaker, your component speaker in the front. There's one in each door. Very automotive in that respect, with the subwoofer in the very back. So in here, you've got your cup holders. In the door there, I'm fairly certain that that is for a fire extinguisher, which is kind of cool. Otherwise, it's for a gigantic big gulp or maybe like a massive Yeti, one of those Yeti water bottles, but it looks like a fire extinguisher holder to me. The doors open nice and wide for getting in and out. That's not really a problem. And I like that the releases on the doors from the inside are right where they should be, where they would be in a car forward. They're not back here. I like that. You've got your adjustable passenger grab handle. It's very easy to adjust. You just pull down on the plunger and adjust it. With that said, it rattles. And I like passenger grab handles that don't rattle. One thing I will say about this grab handle, though, that I think is really interesting and unique is that it uses like motocross dirt bike style grips on it for like ultimate grip, and that's pretty cool. A lot of them are pretty slick actually. If your hands were muddy or wet, it'd be hard to get really good grip. This one definitely that's not the case. You can hold on to that thing as tight as you want. You got a little storage bin in here. In this one has got your wired winch control that plugs in back in here. But a decent sized glove box. You've got your power outlet right here for 12 volt. And then we're going to talk about the dashboard, of course. Before that, we'll get to the transmission. You have a simple high-low neutral reverse transmission. It does not have park in transmission. You have to use your parking brake. So that is something that's very interesting. Most side-by-sides, even if they have a parking brake, still have park and transmission. This one doesn't. As I mentioned, you got your cup holders. Your driver and passenger seats are both adjustable, and you have a tilt steering column. Kawasaki has a name for this, and I want to get it right because it made me laugh. It is ErgoFit is what it's called, and they use that on a bunch of their vehicles. They call it ErgoFit. ErgoFit just means that you can change the fitment of the vehicle to suit you. And in this case, it's nothing special. It's an adjustable seat and adjustable steering wheel. That's pretty much it. So that's your ErgoFit cockpit. A couple other things that they use on this vehicle that are related to the interior. You have a bunch of switches on the dashboard. This is your stereo here. It says Kawasaki Hyphonic. So this is your Bluetooth stereo system, connects to your phone. Another little storage cubby up here with a USB output in it, which is kind of nice for charging your phone. And this would be, if you padded this maybe and put some foam in here, you could actually put your cell phone in there and keep it safe because it isn't an overly big container. So that's kind of nice. I wouldn't say that that's really, it's got a foam seal, but I wouldn't trust that to be waterproof in that case. Okay, there's all kinds of switches here. I'm going to turn this on and you can see the dash because these switches interestingly have a lot to do with your gauge package. So this one is your four-wheel, two-wheel, four-wheel lock button here. This is your mode switch for your electronic suspension. These buttons, this is your winch button. This is your throttle control, throttle mode button, and it's basically on the gauge, it has a low and it says L, and then down, oddly enough, is F, means full. So if you're wondering what the L and the F stand for, L is low power, F is full power. There's only two modes, and inexplicably full power is down. So something you get used to. Again, you've got your switches here for your KECS electronic suspension. These switches, though, are the ones I wanted to talk about. So if you look up here, so this thing's got a really nice, bright TFT display, full color, and it's got tons of information in it. So obviously you have your tach and your speedo front and center, the two most important pieces of information, I guess. Up here in the corner, you got your gear indicator. Down here, you've got your power indicator. This corner, you've got your drive mode, 2, 4, and 4 lock. Down here, you have your electronic suspension setting. Your fuel's on one side, your CVT temperature's on the other side, and at the bottom, you've got your engine temperature, a clock, and your odometer. So that's the way the gauge is when you're riding. Now, one thing, and then I guess along the sides you have your indicator lights, so your warning lights and indicator lights are along each side. It's a really nice looking setup. It's right in the middle of your steering wheel. It does tilt with the steering wheel, which is cool, and I like that versus having it in the dashboard here where you have to look over. It's always front and center. With that said, it is not a touchscreen, so that's what these buttons down here are for, and this is interesting. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever, but like to do stuff on the gauge, you have to learn what these buttons do. So if I want to change gauges, I'm not even really sure how to do this because I haven't played with it enough yet. There you go. Return takes you there. Now I can go up and down, so I can go to audio. So that must connect, and this is where things get curious. I've never seen this before. So this must connect to your Bluetooth and connect to here, I guess. I'm not really sure because we've got Bluetooth over here and then we got audio over here. So I'm not really sure how that all works. If I go back again, go to suspension monitor. This is where you're going to see your KECS settings, your shocks, where they're at. You still have a lot of other information like your fuel. You have your drive modes, your speed at the top, your power, and your gear. So that information is still on the screen when it's up in this mode, which is nice. I like that. You don't lose the information that you need if you want to watch how everything is working. And then if you go down one more, vehicle information, that gives you odometers, trips, water temp, tach, average speed, hour meter, CVT temp, battery, all that kind of technical information about your engine, which is pretty neat. And then you can go down one more and there's a settings that gives you settings for the display, Bluetooth, service, date clock, all that kind of stuff. So it's all doable from these two buttons down here as opposed to touchscreen. Now, initially I thought I wouldn't like this, but actually as I'm sitting here and I'm using it, it's really interesting because I kind of like how it works with it right down here. If my hand is on the shifter, when it's in high range, all I have to do is rest my hand on the shifter and I can just push these two buttons. I wouldn't want to do it when I'm hitting jumps or anything, but for just sitting still, this is almost more comfortable than reaching up and touching the screen. It's certainly accurate. Now, I'm sure if you got into really deep settings and you're like trying to adjust little things, it would get frustrating, but it's pretty intuitive and it seems to work exactly how it's supposed to, so that's pretty neat. I had lower expectations for that, and you're learning along with me. Now, it does have a setting for a camera. Now, I assume that's a backup camera that is not installed. Even on the special edition model, it does not come with a backup camera. I would have thought it would have, it probably should have, but it doesn't, so that seems like something maybe you can add from Kawasaki later on. So overall, the front end, I got lots of space for my right foot, for my throttle and brake foot, lots of room. I have a nice kick up for my non-brake and gas foot. I guess if you're riding hard, it is your brake foot, but for my left foot, I got a nice grippy spot to push back against. I'm comfortable, I got room. The only thing I would complain about and how I feel in here is that these door panels, these finished door panels, have like a little armrest on them. This is plastic, this is not soft, and it is not comfortable. You wouldn't want to be resting your arm on there for very long, it actually hurts. That's a small thing though, so I'm not going to gripe about that too much. Steering wheel is very plasticky, it's not very rubbery. It's a nice looking steering wheel, it seems to have a decent amount of grip, but it really isn't a super grippy, like rubberized steering wheel. That's a small thing again, something you get used to, and again, it does feel pretty grippy, so it's not the end of the world. But I like the interior, I do. I actually like this interior. It's got a lot of stuff, but it's all within really easy reach, and I think that's really cool how they've designed this here. There's lots of spaces for your light bar switches and all that stuff, but in terms of the stuff you're gonna actually need, it's very centralized and easy to use, and I really like that, so that's pretty neat. That's really all I gotta say about this thing at the time. I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. It's a pretty impressive vehicle, and I'm really excited about it. Now, of course, we cannot shut this thing down. We cannot end this walk around without first starting it up so you can hear it. It is a parallel twin, so it's not a V-twin, so it's gonna have a bit of a different cadence than a V-twin, but let's hear how it sounds. So that's basically all I have to say about the Kawasaki KRX4 1000 Special Edition. It's a long name. If you guys liked watching this video, definitely leave us a comment, tell us what you thought about it, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any of our videos. All of these things really help us, and help us know when we're doing a good job, and help us know what kind of content you want to see more of. If you don't ever want to miss a video and want to be notified as soon as we upload, make sure you turn that bell on. That's the end of this one for me, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.